everybody was looking for a home during Christmas where to go to. You couldn't go to Colorado. You couldn't go to Lake Tahoe because it sucked. You had all these other choices. Everybody came to Florida.
I'm not going to judge the safety of a. I can't use that as a statistics of safety. I can't. I don't care who chooses where to vacation. I care what your death rates are, what your vaccination rates are, what your hospitalization.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, Patrick Bet-David and Neil deGrasse Tyson are on his podcast, the PBD podcast, on the Value Trim YouTube channel. And whenever Neil deGrasse Tyson was trying to criticize Florida Republican ran Florida for, guess what? Being Republican ran. That's where Patrick Bet-David lost it and just had to put Neil deGrasse Tyson, this idiot woke scientist, in his place. And we all know that things get heated between someone who has common sense, like Patrick Bet-David does, and someone who has zero of it, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, apparently. Which is crazy to say because, objectively, if we were to look at this with a bird's eye view, and you didn't know much about the intricacies of the situation, well, obviously Neil deGrasse Tyson would be smarter than Patrick Bet-David, right? Obviously, he would have more common sense than Patrick Bet-David because he's an actual scientist, right? Because he's won awards, he's been on television, all this stuff. But the reality is, Neil deGrasse Tyson's mind has been completely captured by the woke mind virus. And he's gone, there's no common sense left in that brain. It's just woke brain rot. That's it. And Patrick Bet-David had to put Neil deGrasse Tyson in his place. But let's get into this clip here where things get heated between Patrick Bet-David and Neil deGrasse Tyson live on the PBD podcast.
No problem.
Right.
Totally fine.
But that's an example.
But
of
if you want to smoke cigarettes outside,
Neil,
you can.
And you can live on the beach unvaccinated. That's fine.
Neil, let me ask you this. So what state would you say was the most responsible during COVID?
State? I don't know. I never looked.
So if you're a stats guy. I have
no idea. Actually.
Okay, I'm a stats guy as well. I like stats, but I'm more financial. I'm not like, but I understand what you're saying.
A lot of stats and finance.
I'm a baseball guy, so I like stats. Okay. I'm all about stats. I love baseball. So if we look at the stats, the media made Florida seem the most irresponsible state. That's what the media made it look. Okay,
we're in Florida right now. You guys do have kind of a bad reputation on a lot of stuff.
Okay, sure. So, and by the way, I've lived in California 24 years, 5 years in Texas, 2 years in Florida. Okay, just so you know my background.
That's right. Okay.
10 years in Iran, 2 years in Germany. That's kind of my background. A couple years in the military. But if we say, hey, if we look at the data, the most irresponsible state was Florida. You would have heard many times news telling you that. When I go to California and I would say, I'm in Florida, I'm like, oh my God, you're in Florida. Oh my, it's horrible. But you know what I realized? Here's what I realized. If the state of Florida is so bad, why did the NBA during Black Lives Matter host the playoffs in Florida?
In the bubble.
If Florida
I thought they created a bubble for themselves.
But why did they come here? They could have done it in Texas. Texas got plenty of places they could do it, and why did they do it here?
I don't know.
But the point is, they felt safest.
Wait, I'm not going to use the NBA as a measure of what is safe.
I also did the Super Bowl here.
A lot of the Super Bowl was here. I'll give you another one. Pro-vaccine AOC for vacation. She came to Miami. People from New York and California were partying for Miami. During COVID, when everybody was looking for a home during Christmas where to go to, you couldn't go to Colorado. You couldn't go to Lake Tahoe because it sucked. You had all these other choices. Everybody came to Florida.
I'm not going to judge the safety of a. I can't use that as a statistics of safety. I can't. I don't care who chooses where to vacation. I care what your death rates are, what your vaccination rates are, what your hospitalization rates are. That would be an objective measure from state to state. What state are you most likely to die in from COVID? That's a statistic I would pay attention to. What state has the least hospital beds to accommodate those who are sick from COVID, even if they're not going to die from COVID? I would want to know that. I'm not going to base a decision on whether the NBA chose to put their bubble in the state.
Well, statistically, New York and California does not look good. Statistically, New York and California, and they're supposed to be the most responsible ones. Those two states didn't look good. All I'm saying is, from my end, in a space where I sit there and I listen to you and I learn, I say, oh my gosh, okay, I had no clue about that. That was brilliant. That's interesting. Let me go research. Let me go look at this. I'm a guy that likes debate of experts in two different sides and let them make the argument. And I'm mature enough to know the better salesman doesn't necessarily have the better argument.
Good. But let me just say that there's nothing I've said in the last half hour that is a debating point. All I'm telling you, well, you can debate whether you should still be able to work and put other workers at risk for not having vaccinated. You can debate that.
Yeah.
In the context of public health, that's a risk factor that we don't want to introduce to other people because of your decisions. That's a public health issue. It's been going on basically for 100 and something years since, who's the woman who, there's some famous medical case.
It's funny how Patrick Bet-David listed off all these things because, they don't have the statistics available. I don't know if we have them at all available, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have them. But because he didn't really have these available, Patrick Bet-David listed off all these things, different people, AOC, all these people that went to Florida and Miami for vacation during the lockdown time. Why do you think they did that? Why do you think they did that and we're clamoring for the lockdowns and the jab mandates and all these things are, going and then fleeing to the exact place that said, no, we're not doing that. Probably because life is a whole lot better in those places that don't do stuff like that. And number two, they never really believed and stuff like that. Anyway, they were just told to believe in stuff like that and to spread it and to propagate those ideas by their overlords because it makes it easier to control or something. And obviously Neil deGrasse Tyson would never admit to that or say anything like that, but the fact that he was willing or not willing or to make any concessions to Patrick Bet-David's point, it just proves my point, our point, that he's just a complete lost woke mind virus. And it's just sad because I used to watch a little bit of Neil deGrasse Tyson as a kid and his TV shows, and I forgot the exact name of one, maybe like Exploring the Cosmos or something, and I used to be fascinated by that stuff, but now I can't watch anything like that anymore, man. And after I've already saw what I've seen, I can't watch what he's devolved into. It's like his brain is gone, and it's hard to separate people from the politics, separate the art from the artist, but I can't do it anymore. I used to love Star Wars, but I can't anymore. And even when I watch some of the old movies and I see Mark Hamill, I'm just like, that's that woke idiot who has TDS. And it just and he criticizes everything. It just makes me sad, man. It's a sad world we live in where everyone's woke and you can't go against what they're saying. And he's a lunatic. That's what he is. And it's just sad. But look, that's another conversation. Let's get back into this clip here.
A person who spread what is that case
recently?
No, 100 years ago.
Oh,
it created a whole wave of sanitation rules and things for public health sake.
I'm not familiar.
But anyway, the point is, I want to make sure you can focus on the 1,500 people who died after the vaccine.
Mary Mallon. You're talking about the history of typhoid fever?
Yeah, Typhoid Mary. Yes, thank you.
Typhoid Mary. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know her last name.
Yeah.
I thought typhoid was her first name.
Typhoid Mary.
Okay. Wait. So it's simply a matter of, if you're saying you don't want to be in the 2,000, whatever the number is, who died after the vaccine from heart failure at the peak of your physical career, not totally necessarily factoring in all the other abuses that went on over that time that may have contributed to it. Instead, you want to take the risk of COVID and not be one of the 20 million people who would have died and didn't, right? So I just want you to have the statistics in front of you. And it seems to me most people would, in most cases, choose the path that reduces their chance of death.
But by the way, I don't disagree.
That's why I'm not debating. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there.
But this part of what you're saying, I'm 100% with you. But this is...
It's not a matter of being with me. It's just, are you with the decision-making of what is rational, statistical analysis?
But this position is not an arrogant position. This position is kind of like when you're sitting there and you tell the doctor, so doc, what do I do? Do I get the surgery? Like, we have one of my good friends right now is getting a brain surgery in the next couple of weeks. She's afraid. Now, she believes in God, so faith is kind of common.
I actually love Patrick Bet-David, but I hate that he always has a long-ass story to tell for every single miniature point he makes. Like, we get it, bro. Anyway, the problem with what Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying here is that he's saying that Patrick Bet-David's agreeing with, it doesn't make any sense because he's saying that most humans would take the choice where you have a lower chance of death. Maybe there's a small percentage change in that chance of death from a certain virus, from that certain virus. But what we're doing now, there's a much higher chance of death from injecting foreign things into your body that haven't even been properly tested from a million different other things that might not be the virus. Maybe there is a small improvement in the chances of not dying from the virus if you get it, but it's not worth it all at all because of the things that you get, the the hard part of the solution. It's just a crazy conversation. But that's all for me today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.